Ladies and gentlemen, good morning if you're hearing us all across the American continent, and good afternoon if you're hearing us from Europe. Welcome to the webinar. Also, welcome if you're listening to this at a later moment and you have downloaded our recordings. The title of our webinar today is Optimizing PV Asset Performance through O&M and Asset Management Tools. My name is Marcel Langone, and I'm project manager at Solarplaza. Brief agenda for today. First, a short introduction on our webinar and panelists. Shortly after, we will have Robert Fatischer from Meteo Control that will introduce us to the different approaches to monitoring depending on the size of the assets, and also local versus remote monitoring. He will then present a case study related to Meteo Control cooperation with the Chilean government. Afterwards, Etienne Lecomte from PowerHub will present an overview of asset management software that is used for solar PV, considerations on when to invest in software, and also building versus buying software. There will still be time for Q&A at the end of our webinar, which will be in approximately 1 hour. Again, my name is Marcel Langone. I'm project manager at Solarplaza. I work on the solar asset management conferences, both in Latin America and Asia. And these are my contact details on screen. So please feel free to get in touch regarding any questions related to solar asset management or any of our conferences. For those of you that don't know us that well, we are a global information platform for PV. Our main business is organizing high-level B2B conferences and trade missions. We have done over 90 in the last 13 years in more than 30 countries, and we have a network of over 60,000 solar professionals and growing every day. So this webinar today is a pre-call to our Solar Asset Management Conference in Latin America. It will be held in Santiago de Chile during 17 and 18 October, so just 3 weeks from now. This is the only conference in LATAM that focuses on all technical and financial topics that are relevant and related to the operational phase of PV assets. We are expecting around 150 attendees. More than 40 expert speakers will be on stage to share their knowledge and expertise, and we will have around 10 sponsors and exhibitors at the show. Some conference topics that will be discussed on our conference are renewable energy policies, operations and asset management, data analytics, secondary market, among many other topics. And the companies that are involved so far are on screen right now. So don't miss a chance to meet these professionals of all these companies at the conference. Of course, a special thanks for our sponsors, including our presenters of today, for making our conferences and content possible. If you haven't had the chance to register yet and you would like to do it, we're providing a special discount code for today for this webinar. So you can use the code webinar15 in our registration page to get 15% discount on the first 10 registrations. Some practical notes just before we start. If you have any technical issues, please use the chat box on your right. And then for Q&A, please also make use of the chat box. Please remember that the presentation slides will be available afterwards, so you will be able to give a more detailed look on the presentations of today. Our first speaker of the day is Robert Fatischer. He's the managing director at Meteo Control. He joined Meteo Control in 2002 as department manager, being appointed as managing director in 2010. He started his career at Energycom, working as project engineer and moving up to shareholder. Robert, I will make you presenter right now. So I will just unmute you and the floor will be yours. Robert, just one more second. I will share you the mouse as well. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Marcel, for your kind introduction. And of course, I'm happy to talk about optimizing the performance of PV assets and to show the participants of this webinar some of the Meteo Control solutions which we can contribute regarding this issue. But maybe not all participants know about Meteo Control, so let me just give you a short. Okay, it takes a while. Let me give you a short introduction about who we are, what we are doing. So Meteo Control, we are about 130 employees, 6 locations worldwide. And in our database, there are more than 43,000 PV plants monitored, resulting in a total installed power of more than 12 gigawatts. And this makes us the #1 independent monitoring provider globally regarding the GTM report 2016. So we really can rely on a long-term track record and show a lot of experience regarding operation and monitoring and management of PV systems. What we do, we are offering a range of services and products, starting with technical consulting. Usually our entry point are yield assessments. We are providing bankable yield reports as a basis for financial calculations. And we are also offering technical due diligence services, on-site measurements, whatever is required regarding the technical support of a PV project. One very important point is forecasting. This becomes more and more important regarding increasing installed capacity of PV systems, regarding weaker grids with a high amount of installed PV. So we are offering forecasting regarding long-term calculations for the yield reports, but also day ahead, intraday, and short-term forecasting. That's really a worldwide service. Data logging is one of our core competences, and our BlueLog X series shows a lot of advanced features, but I will not go into the details right now. Let me just mention the basis for optimizing performance, and that's the monitoring system itself. And there we are offering either remote monitoring, we call it virtual control room, VCOM, but also on-site SCADA solutions, depending on the project requirements. So please just understand we are offering a comprehensive range of services and products to secure quality and also performance of a PV project. Next step would be requirements in different segments. And Marcel, if I understood correctly, this would be the point to give the first poll question to the audience?
Correct, Robert. We will just launch our poll in a few seconds. will be on your screen just right now. And the first poll question is, as an industry professional, what is the scale of projects you are mostly focused on? Residential or small commercial? CNI, and specifically here the PMGDs, which is less than 9 megawatts in Chile, and utility or utility scale. So please start voting and we will show our results in a few seconds. 10 more seconds. I think we are ready to show the results. Okay, we have a big majority of the people here that are focused on utility scale, and some people focus on residential and on PMGDs. Yeah, Robert, let's continue with the presentation and see how the monitoring differs between these different segments.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a majority focusing on the utility scale, but I think it does make sense to have a look at the different segments, starting with the small commercial ones, maybe small commercial rooftops, and of course the starting point from our point of view is data logging. You see number one, the data logger may be integrated in a data station, in a housing. Our recommendation is always to use a irradiation sensor, which sometimes is a discussion, but yeah, we still recommend to use an radiation sensor. Important is there's always this. Is number four, the monitoring tool itself, in order to evaluate data regarding performance, and also important to handle alarms. One additional step would be here mentioned as number 5, to use satellite data as an independent data source, independent from on-site measurements, as a fallback solution regarding evaluation of performance. When it comes to the next step, large commercial, you mentioned also PMGD, up to 9 megawatts, which is not really small, I would say, but up to 3 megawatts, there is no environmental impact declaration necessary. So that's the large commercial sector as we see it. There are some more requirements, starting with a professional yield report, maybe construction supervision and technical acceptance. And in this regard, or in this segment, also power control and feed-in management becomes more important. And in regard of the monitoring tool, it's not only performance and alarms, it's also reporting becoming more and more important. But you can see on the growing number of bullet points, there are different requirements when changing between the segments. The next one, the majority is focusing on, is utility scale, and you can see a large number of bullet points. But in the end, it starts with the same yield reports, construction supervision, data logging, monitoring, and with a utility scale project, there may be also the requirement of on-site control features requiring local SCADA solutions, here mentioned as number 9, and also additional sensors, additional interfaces regarding PPA off-takers or energy traders, which need to get operational data in real time. So that's the full range of requirements from a monitoring perspective, and that's the basis for any optimization of performance. If it comes to remote monitoring versus local SCADA system, of course, our core business, our core product is remote monitoring. And this screen just shows you an example of performance overview and also the ticket system. So if you have a look at the bubbles on the left-hand side, the green bubbles show you good performing systems. The red bubbles show you bad performing systems. So it's a very quick overview and you know which system you have to take care of. The same for the right-hand side. You see the green squares, you see the red squares, and the red squares show you open alarms, show you, not open alarms, show you alarms, show you tickets. So the most important thing is no alarm gets lost. So you avoid losing any yield, losing any problem, and yeah, be on the safe side regarding optimal yield. If you go more into the detail, having a look at single systems, there are features like this inverter heat map on the right-hand side, which gives you a quick overview of the behavior of single inverters day by day, and also the normalized presentation of inverter yields show you which inverters are underperforming. And these are the ones you should take care of. You should try to investigate why are they underperforming. Oh, that was one too much. A different level of data access would be the investor's view. This dashboard, it's a kind of short overview about key performance indicators, KPIs. For example, here, the calculated forecast versus the actual data, the actual yield, to get a very quick view if everything's going right. Another very important segment is reporting. In this case, monthly reporting to document the status and the performance of your systems. This can be extended to such a video wall. That's an example of a video screen, a professional network operations center powered by the Meteor Control VCOM. And you see it's a very professional tool to manage a large number of systems or to manage large PV plants. If it comes to local SCADA centers, we see it in three levels. First level is the virtual control room, cloud-based, which enables centralized, very effective management of PV plants, of PV portfolios. And with this, you are also able to give data access on different levels to different shareholders, like investors, like EPCs, like project developers. The next level is the local control room with a local SCADA system, and the third level is really the field and control level, including all the components, inverters, and so on, which have to be monitored and controlled. A local SCADA system can fulfill various project requirements, which means if there's a location without internet connection, if there's on-site technical management required, if there's local data storage required, or if there are very high security requirements. So that's the starting point, thinking about local SCADA systems. Next slide shows you an example of such a SCADA screen. You see a single line diagram, but also including the ability to control components. So you see in this example the question, are you sure to operate the circuit breaker? So that shows you it's not only monitoring, it's also including control features. And of course, from our perspective, combining a remote and an on-site monitoring results in the perfect solution for professional PV projects. Let's go to the next slide. And that's the case study Marcel mentioned already regarding a project funded by the Chilean Energy Ministry. Originally, there have been 300 systems planned in the range between 5 and 200 kilowatt peak. Up till now, 106 have been realized. They are located on public buildings all over Chile, and you see this map with the first systems integrated. And yeah, it really is distributed all over, starting in the north, but also some systems in the south. And up till now, there has been no qualified technical management. And yeah, there have been first system failures already detected when installing the monitoring, like string failures, even inverters not operating. So this really shows such a tool to supervise, to control, to evaluate such a portfolio is very important. One effect was also an additional order of irradiance sensors to be able to evaluate performance of these systems very quickly. This is a joint monitoring project with our local partner, Ingetrace, and we are also building up a local presence, Meteor Control Chile, in Santiago. Another example regarding plant overviews. On the left-hand side, you see the list of plants. You see some first evaluations. On the right-hand side, you see the ticket overview and you see the portfolio generation. So that's a very quick overview of the portfolio to give a very quick information about the status. Regarding performance, there will be some more details just to give you a first impression. Of course, you can also get some PR values, but to be honest, that's really an ongoing project. So not all systems are integrated, not all systems are configured perfectly, but this is an ongoing task. And in the end, you can see it's the right tool to manage such a number of systems. And please keep in mind, these are some kind of small systems, but even a multi-megawatt system does consist of subsystems. So even a 50, even a 100 megawatt system in the end is consisting of subsystems of maybe 1 megawatt, maybe 2 megawatt. And in the end, you need a tool to handle this number of subsystems. So regarding the lessons learned, yeah, hopefully you understand there are different system categories which do have different requirements. We learned that with distances of up to 4,200 kilometers, reliable monitoring is mandatory. And yeah, you need such a tool to be able to realize a centralized and effective supervision. As already mentioned, during the installation of the monitoring, the first failures of the PV systems have been detected. And from our perspective, combining the remote and also the local monitoring provides flexible solutions to manage large plants or large portfolios. And yeah, this webinar is about optimizing PV assets performance. And from our perspective, professional advanced tools are required to handle this. So that was just a short presentation about our tools, about our solutions, and of course we would be happy to welcome you on the Solarplaza conference in Santiago. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Robert. So indeed, Meteo Control will of course be in Santiago, so feel free to get in touch after the webinar, but also at the conference. Before we go to our next presentation, a question for you, Robert. So how do you see the monitoring panorama in Chile and in other Latin American countries you're studying at the moment? Are people aware of the importance of monitoring?
I think it's becoming, they are becoming more and more aware of it. Of course, Chile is somehow special because it started with very large systems, utility scale, and with a utility scale system, usually people know about the importance of monitoring, and you don't have to discuss is it necessary or not. With smaller systems, it's sometimes a discussion. Sometimes you need to convince people to invest in sensors, for example, to enable a reliable monitoring to be able to evaluate performance. That's all. A good data set is always the basis for reliable evaluations.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert, for your insights, for the presentation. And we will come back to you later for Q&A. For now, our next presenter is Etienne Lecomte. He's a recognized leader and entrepreneur in renewable energy, software development, and regulatory compliance. And he started PowerHub after founding the renewable energy compliance consultancy firm, LCAB, Local Content Assurance Bureau. Etienne, I will share you the mouse in a few seconds, and the stage will be yours.
Excellent. Thank you for the introduction, Marcel. Thank you, Robert, for your presentation. We'll just wait for the screen to change here, and I think we should be good to go. So first and foremost, thanks to Solarplaza for organizing this webinar. Thanks for everybody to being on. We're very proud to be a global solar asset management partners with Solarplaza, participating in most of their events globally. And I think I'll start with the conclusion that Robert really brought forward, that tools are really a requirement in managing plants. Obviously, we take a very different perspective. We're more on the financial and commercial management side of things. Before I jump into my presentation, however, I'd just like to ask one question to start to everybody, just so we know actually who's on the line here. And the question is really how you describe yourself. Are you mostly a project developer, an asset manager, operations manager, or really a technology provider?
We will give a few seconds to vote, and we'll right now see the results and see who is on the other side of the line.
Excellent.
Just a few more seconds. Are we ready to show the results? Okay.
All right, so good mix of people, and fellow technology providers are here as well. That's very helpful. People involved in project development, obviously at the core of solar, and then asset managers make sure that the long-term operations are actually in sync. So what I'll do is, if we go back to the presentation, I'll introduce us briefly. All right. All right. So about PowerHub, we're a software-only company. We're focused on building tools for the renewable energy industry. We focus on the commercial and financial management of projects. meaning that when you look at projects, obviously their technical operations, as Robert has alluded to, is super important. You need to monitor that information. On our side, we're built for flexibility, built for aggregation of data. So we actually plug into the different management systems or monitoring systems that you have to pull all that information of it, make sense of it from a commercial and financial standpoint, digest it with you, and basically include in your workflows and processes. We're a team of 40 people based in Toronto in Canada. We have an interesting mix of 50% of our team is female, 50% of our team is actually developers. So we're focused on building a better tool for our clients on an ongoing basis. And the other 50% of our team is really there to deliver our software and implement the software at our client sites. We currently manage above 5 gigawatts of projects, and we work with both smaller and larger projects, companies with one project in operation up to a few hundred projects. I think the smallest project we have on the platform right now is about 17 kilowatts, and the largest is 450 megawatts. We work across different generation types: wind, solar, biomass, you name it. We can be a part of that. We're used globally, and really our focus is helping companies grow as they kind of move forward in the renewable energy space. And that's where we're really pointing our attention now to the Latin American markets, because we believe there's a great opportunity as the market is really getting set up for success. A little bit about me. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm one of the co-founders of PowerHub, and I've been focused on probably in the renewable since the early 2000s. I've seen a lot of different regimes, different types of projects, and so on. And fundamentally, I'm a process and technology person. So I love business that run effectively and efficiently. That's really at the founding tenet of PowerHub. And before we kind of go forward into more kind of the meat of the software discussion today, the question I'd have for the audience is really, Marcel, I don't know if you can pull up the poll, is what percentage of your business processes are currently digital? Are you focusing on, and that excludes Excel. Excel doesn't count as a management system. Really, if you look at the broader layout of your business, what would be digitized today?
Okay, let's have a few seconds for people starting voting, and we will show the results afterwards. Okay, a few more seconds and we will show the results. Think we are ready to show them?
Oh, great! That's pretty impressive, and a great distribution once again. People are some companies are really kind of mature on their technology use. Some a bit more junior. So I think I'll preface this to kind of just jump into the presentation and look at what can software do for you? And I think that's an important question, albeit a very high level question that everyone in the industry we need to ask is, what can I get out of software? We believe that software helps build a great foundation for any business. And you can start small. You can start with only certain applications that are digitized, that you are tracking, that you're monitoring on software. And then as you grow, you can include different processes and digitized processes. But the way to think about software and processes, they go really hand in hand. Software, so the right tools, the right processes, and the right people will really drive a business forward. And good software needs to match the right tool for your business. That's one of the reasons we've built a very flexible tool set, so you can really interface with your other systems and implement something that makes sense for your business. And we see ourselves as being part of an ecosystem. And you should consider an ecosystem of software tools when you're running your business. Obviously, you're going to have an accounting software or accounting package to run the detailed financials from your aspect. You'll have monitoring software as Robert Companies offers. And then you'll have management system or commercial asset management systems that are going to tie all that information together. And the idea here is to standardize, basically divide people from processes and make your business model repeatable and track issues and increase traceability, increase ultimately transparency, what's going on. So you can learn from what's going on in certain of your sites and move forward. And that can work in the development process, that can work through the operations process. But it's very important to consider that software can do a lot of things that sometimes we forget about, and that can be automating manual processes and so on. So we'll just launch into another little poll and before we move on to when you should consider software. And the question really is, at what scale do you think software makes sense in your business? We've seen already by the poll that people were spread across a continuum of software implementation from 0 to 25 to almost fully integrated on software platforms. So Marcel, if you can put up the poll, it's really, when do you think it makes sense? 1 to 10 projects, 10 to 50 projects, 50 to 100 projects, or even 100 plus projects. These can be operating assets. You can consider these as development assets as well.
So we have the poll right now. Please start voting and we will show the results in a few seconds. Just a few more seconds before we're able to see the results. Okay, we're ready.
Oh, that's great results. I completely agree. For me and what we see at our clients, the earliest is really a good time to start implementing proper software packages to run your business, both on the commercial side as well as on the technical side to move forward. So Marcel, if you want to put back up the presentation.
Yes, we're back at your presentation.
Excellent. So for us, when should you consider software? We see in our experience 3 types of clients. Companies that come to us before growth. And that's really what we see in new markets where people are setting up processes for the first time. Example, we did extensive work in the Middle East where new PPA types or new invoicing requirements are pushing people to say, well, this seems really complicated. We should probably put a system in place. Or companies, they're going to go on an acquisition spree and buy hundreds of projects or dozens of projects. Say, hey, I should put my house in order before I scale rapidly. So that's one moment where you think about it. So when you're just setting up and say, hey, this is going to be our business plan, we're tripling in 3 years, which is a sentence we hear a lot of. Another time is really during growth. So you've refined your processes, you've really defined how you're running your business, and then you're ready. Let's digitize those processes. Let's digitize these workflows. Let's automate the processes that are taking a lot of time from our clients. We have a client as an example. They're spending 2 hours a day almost, so 1 to 2 hours a day, entering data manually from different monitoring systems. So just that taxing time on an individual day in, day out really brings a great ROI to the table right away when you implement a software package like PowerHelp. And the third category of clients that we see, people are already underwater. They're looking, they've grown rapidly, they're managing a lot of projects, they're having a lot of manual processes, and they need a solution yesterday. And really, you need to consider when the time is right for you. But the word of advice from us is software creates efficiencies, effectiveness in the team. So it's really about choosing the right moment. May not seem optimal sometimes, because there's a lot of different activities that need to be considered. There's this project to be built. There's this land lease to sign and so on. But bringing systems in place on a piecemeal fashion gradually can help a lot. You don't need to implement a software tool across your whole business processes right away. You can start small and grow with you. Because the real reasons why you should invest in software is because you're not buying software. You're buying time, you're buying resources, you're reducing risk, you're enhancing productivity, you're enhancing transparency. Soltage is a client of ours in the USA. They've increased significantly the number of assets they had under management, the megawatts they had under management, and they did add any headcount. It's actually continuously growing, actually, and you don't see that in the foreseeable future. And that's great because they've standardized processes, they've standardized approaches, and still have the flexibility to keep growing and bring in new types of PPAs, new types of assets under management. And really, when you're considering investing in software, you have a very important decision to consider. Should I build software or should I buy software? And I have this discussion with a variety of parties every month. When people say, oh, I'll build this system in-house, we'll own it, it's going to be resilient, it's going to grow well. And we're currently discussing a large company who's actually built a system from scratch and really works. And they've built it around a very linear process from origination all the way to long-term operations, and it works great. But they're now starting to bring in new types of projects, new types of agreements into their pipeline, and then that system is no longer flexible enough to accommodate that. As a software-only company, we believe that specialization is key, and focusing on one part of the equation where you add the most value really creates benefits for the company in the long run. And that's why even considering independent service providers versus bundled service providers. There's companies like ours who really specialize in software, and there's companies who also offer other types of softwares. You really need to consider also your independence when you move into a software platform. How can I use this software with multiple different partners, operations providers, and so on. And for us, asset managers can use our software or our asset management software as global to do a variety of tasks. It can be around project management, task management, compliance, risk management, workflows, processes, approvals, and so on. On the invoicing side, if I look at Chile as an example, invoicing for PMGDs, where all these different notices, or even for transmission connected projects where you get a lot of settlements, becomes harder to administer, and we can automate some of those reporting, but also enhance traceability, automate data ingestion, reporting generation. And really on the reporting side becomes very powerful to have tools in-house because it allows you to provide different reporting tools to different people or different reporting approach. You have landowners who want to know how the project is doing to increase local acceptance. You can do that. You want to report to your banks. You can do that. And so these are kind of four big buckets of tool sets that our asset managers that we see are using our software are really focused on to basically manage that business better for them. And ultimately, when you look at Chile as an example, PMGDs, shadow settlements, lots of paper statements coming in, complex contracts, the need to issue reports to the government on a frequency, we're starting to work in Chile to try to automate, as an example, some of the PMGD related reporting, as well as invoicing components. And for us, that's a very interesting challenge where we can devise a solution that's going to work for anyone working in that market. So if that's a problem that you're facing, we'd love to talk about. But also on the transmission connected information, just logging all the different statements that you receive, making sense of it all and see how it works and how it impacts your whole financial and commercial performance. That's super important. So in closing, I think I'll reiterate a little bit what Robert has said. Tools are required to manage plants in diverse countries where you have diverse types of contracts. And we've seen from the survey today, whether you're managing 1 or 100 plants, software should have its place in your ecosystem because it's ultimately going to help you make your business grow better. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Etienne, for your insights. We will just, before we continue to the Q&A sessions of a question. So, what are the specific challenges that you have seen in entering these Latin American markets? And also, I pose you the same question for as with Robert. So, do you see that people are aware of importance of these tools? And of course, that we can go back to our poll questions and comment on those results, that we saw quite a significant percentage of people that are not using tools at the moment.
I kind of see it the other way, Marcel. I see that a lot of people are using tools or have digitized some of their processes, and I think that's important. And that's the great thing is coming into say new markets, like in Latin America, where we're seeing people leapfrogging the errors that have been done in, I don't want to say errors, but the growing pains that we've seen in other markets. If you look at in Europe, the adoption of management systems was done rather late. And people are looking at very competitive rates already on pricing, or spot prices really reinforce the need to have proper tools in place to manage those complexities. So that's what really exciting for me looking to Latin America is the mindset that people have already is like, yes, we should set ourselves up for success from day one. And I think we've been seeing that from people's kind of response. I was surprised at the high percentages of automation and tools that are currently used.
Very good, thank you. And yeah, in that line, I would like to mention that this discussion will be deeper in our conference. So we will discuss about O&M and asset management, the international lessons learned, and of course the years of operational experience that we have in Chile. So thank you for your comments, Etienne. I will begin again with Robert for the next question. Robert, so how do you assure a good technical and commercial support in Chile while you are located in Germany?
I think Robert is still muted, Marcel.
Yes. Let's see if we can hear Robert.
Okay, now it works, yes. I was not able to unmute myself. So. Okay, yeah, Chile is really a long distance, and of course we thought, how can we realize a good technical support, a good commercial support for our customers, and that's why we did set up this local presence. So there is a Meter Control Chile founded right now, and it will be located in Santiago. And of course, the colleagues there will take care of all the Chilean customers, but also have a look at related markets. And that's also the way we are handling other markets. For example, we are talking to potential partners in Mexico. We are talking to partners in Japan, in India. So we are looking for to establish local presence if a market becomes or grows to a certain size. So it makes sense to establish a local support.
Perfect, thank you, Robert. And yeah, a second question. So your future strategy for Chile will focus mostly on small scale, utility scale. How do you see this this focus?
Yeah, we are offering professional tools, professional solutions. So that's why we are really focused on the commercial and utility scale. Regarding future developments, with growing capacities, with growing systems, also data handling control of PV systems becomes more and more a kind of critical infrastructure, and that's why we think data security is becoming an important issue in future. Power control is already an issue here in Europe. It will become an issue also in the Latin American markets, and of course, storage is a topic, and it just depends on pricing when storage will be integrated in the majority of systems, I guess.
Thank you, Robert. So a last question before we round up our webinar, and this one is for Etienne. And yeah, in the same line, Etienne, what are the developments in regards of asset management that you see for the near future?
Well, the main question on the asset management side that, that people need to consider as they set up is, am I going to run asset management in-house or am I going to outsource? For me, that's a key question that we see across all market verticals, in in-house versus outsourcing. And if outsourcing, what kind of tools do I need to put in place or processes in place to have good transparency there? And how do I pick that asset manager? And then the question is, if I do outsource, what scope do I outsource? What do I push out? And at what scale does it make sense to insource asset management processes? For us, for me, that's going to be a very important question that we see in the local market. We see already actors present on basically helping on the settlement issue, on invoicing, both on the PMGD and the transmission connected project, on the utility scale projects. So for me, that's obviously a question that I'm interested in seeing the evolution, and how are people going to manage fleets? Now we're moving away from, I think Chile was 98% utility scale projects. As the PMGDs ramp up, do we see different models? Do we see different actors? So for me, that's what I'm looking forward to discussing at the Latin America conference in a few weeks.
Perfect. We do still have time to a last and very interesting question from the audience. Does PowerHub integrate with monitoring systems?
Yes, we integrate with dozens of monitoring systems. So we'll pull in data either from companies like Meteo Control or other data providers, as well as local custom SCADA that may have been built, or any system. We really created with flexibility in mind, so we can ingest information, run KPIs from different systems if you're not standardized on one platform. So you can look at it in one point of view, and really get a good snapshot of what's going on your site.
Thanks again, Robert and Etienne. Thank you also to our attendees for the input and participation. I hope the webinar was of value to you. And if you have any questions or remarks still, my contact details are just shown on screen. Also very happy to continue this discussion also with the speakers present in Santiago in a few weeks. So we do really hope to meet you in Santiago, or also at any of our other upcoming Solarplaza conferences, either in Singapore, Ivory Coast, or at our upcoming solar asset management conferences in Milan and San Francisco. I wish you a great day and look forward to meet you in Santiago. Goodbye. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, gentlemen.